team.
Wow. Really? Wow.
I see you, boy. One more for the money. Champ family, oh, you heard it here first. Cade Cunningham, 9 points in a row. He did his thing. But the Cavs with the victory, man. What a victory, man. What a victory, man. Shoot. Family, Darius Garland, he's the man of the hour. He hits the three. Donovan Mitchell and everybody in the building. Cade did his thing to bring the Pistons back. You talked about 6 free throws in a row, 9 points in a row, gave them a chance, but with 5 seconds left, the Cavs had life, hit the three at the buzzer, about to head to the press conference and talk about it, man. Gosh, what a game. Another heartbreaker for these Detroit Pistons. Do you know how difficult it is as when we're in media to not cheer, to not really show the emotion? And I was like, all right, even some of the Pistons PR people were down there, and it was just, okay, keep in check. I know JB Smooth was in the building last night as well. The environment was crazy. The tension, like, you know what? Loss aside, pack that arena out. Yeah. Because that was meaningful basketball. People wanted that. I haven't felt that. There were goosebumps. Cade, those 9 straight points, 6 straight free throws. Dog, everything was epic. And just a second, I know they lost 118-115, but Cade Cunningham, 38 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds on the night for him. And with the NBA trade deadline right upon us, brother, what everybody is saying from social media to the chat is that you got to get this guy some help. It's not a slight on Ivy, who's out right now. But you saw last night, you got to get him some help, especially in contrast with some of these trades going on. You know where people's minds instantly went? A bunch of former Pistons, right? Got traded for Brandon Ingram, and now Scotty Barnes has help. They were drafted in the same year. The notion of waiting, to me, I don't know if you do that, especially when you paid Cade. If you have a chance to go out there and get somebody, man, I would have liked to see that. But so much going on, so much emotion. Yeah. Just your thoughts on this game first, man. That was a tough one.
Oh, well, my thoughts on this game was that it happened again. It was another game where Cade, for large stretches, didn't have his best shooting game. But when it came to money time, like what happened against the Hawks, he ties the game, and then it's rendered moot because Trae Young's heroics. And then
12 points the last 5 minutes and 30 seconds for Cade.
And then last night, Cade Cunningham did even more at the end of the game, basically willing the team back damn near by himself to tie the game. There were points where I thought it was over when it was, I think it was 112 to 106, where I damn near turned the game off because I was getting home from the Michigan game, and I caught the end, and it was just unbelievable. All of the clutch free throws that Cade Cunningham made, I don't know why they kept fouling him behind the three-point line, but he made every single one of them. He willed this team back by himself, and his heroics were deemed moot by Darius Garland. It's a cruel game. Those games last night should have been one of Cade Cunningham's all-star season moments, because what he did towards the end of the game in the clutch, 21 points in the fourth quarter, 9 straight points to end the game against the number 1 seed in the East, Cleveland, without Donovan Mitchell, by the way, but still. But unfortunately, when you leave time on the clock, sometimes stuff like that just happens. It's just, I am gutted by last night. I'm more gutted than I should be. And I'm not saying that it's over. I'm not saying that, they're not going to beat Philly and Charlotte, but that would have been a really nice one to have.
It would have been really nice because let's make sure the record is set straight here, especially when it's about the NBA trade deadline perspective. You look at what it looks like. They didn't have Donovan Mitchell. In the past, you probably say, hey, if their star player's not playing, we have a shot. What we saw last night was Cade Cunningham, one new All-Star versus two All-Stars, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, and a nice cast of NBA rotation-level players starting and coming off the bench. And when you look at the stats, it was effectively Cade Cunningham and Tim Hardaway Jr. Really carrying the scoring load for the Pistons. I think with 58 points between them on the night. It's just too much. The whole notion of bringing Cade Cunningham's usage down, you don't do that with just rotation players. That makes his usage stay up. He can't bring the usage down because he's still going to have to be the one to make all the plays happen for those types of players. If you get somebody who could be ball dominant, whether you think they're efficient or not, those types of players are still going to do things like get foul calls. They're still going to absorb a certain amount of gravity. They're still going to make it more difficult for a defense to think, oh, do we stay with Beasley? Do we stay with Cade? Or do we stay over here? And then when Cade goes to the bench, you have a player that can do a lot of the things that we saw Jaden Ivey starting to grow into. I do believe that it's important for the Pistons, even though they're exceeding expectation right now, to still keep that pedal down to the floor and try and get all that you can get. That's just what I get out of JB Bickerstaff, is that he wants his team to have all that they can have. Like, so why hold back if you could have facilitated something at this trade deadline?
Well, that's what, and I know that this just burned you inside because you don't like Scotty Barnes. Kool-Aid does not like Scotty Barnes.
And he got the player we've been talking about for like the last year and a half. Remember, we on this show, we were like, look, I've been hearing the Pelicans as a team to watch, and Brandon Ingram as a name, and then the rumors started coming.
And this is just in a vacuum. Let me vent a little bit because we all know that the trade deadline isn't over. We don't know what this deal is going to end up becoming because we all know Brandon Ingram has had a very prodigious recent injury history. However, why does Scotty Barnes get Brandon Ingram? Why does Scotty Barnes get Brandon Ingram and Cade Cunningham does not yet? Why does Scotty Barnes get Brandon Ingram and Cade Cunningham gets a Jaden Ivey having a fluke broken leg? It's just it's an unfair game, and I'm not trying to whine too much, but Scotty Barnes, I don't dislike him nearly as much as Kool-Aid does, and he's a very good player. But quiet as kept, Scotty Barnes is, in my opinion, a big reason why the Raptors are just a bad team record-wise. Because as much as Scotty Barnes is a very good all-around player, he shoots his team out of games all the freaking time. 5 3-point attempts per game, 26%.
Preach it.
And he gets Brandon Ingram.
Bust the narratives, because we're just over here just looking at Flannel over there, just waxing poetically, because Cade lost Rookie of the Year to that man, because I was told that Scotty Barnes made a bigger impact on his team winning games than Cade Cunningham. How silly. How silly. This is the reason why I was screaming for it back then. Oh, awards don't matter. They do matter. And these players step to the podium, I hear them, and they state, yes, it matters. Obviously, they're not going to let it define their career. But what they're allowing it to do now is push them to new heights, because Cade does look like a man on a mission. I don't believe people understand the Pistons were right there with the opportunity to push this thing to overtime because of Cade Cunningham. Just Cade Cunningham. Do you know how thin a margin it was for him to even become an all-star this season?
Yeah.
So it's like, we're talking about now one certified all-star out there, but he willed this team, and that's where you're right. We got to be fair. We got to be fair because the trade deadline's not over. And they are exceeding expectations, so we do got to put that in perspective. Yeah. There's a lot that Trajan Langdon has done, because I'm not trying to indict Trajan Langdon at this trade deadline. There's a lot that Trajan Langdon has done right, okay? They're not in this position without what he's already done. You know, you pick up a Ron Holland, who I know Troy Weaver had #1 on his board, but Trajan Langdon also was very, very high on him as well. You get Tobias Harris, you get Malik Beasley, you get Tim Hardaway Jr., you get a team that's in postseason play most of the season. Most of the season, man, and have gone on some little heaters. They're responding well. He was able to bring in and put together a nice front office as well. So I'm not going to act like all that just didn't happen just because at this trade deadline right now, it's not necessarily looking the way that I would it to look. But I want to be able to, JB, if you don't, I was about to say JB Bickerstaff. JB Smooth, let's read these super chats. I know we got another segment of this, man, because we got to break down this NBA trade deadline. we got to talk about what the Pistons did yesterday because some people are a little miffed. There's some things I see what they're lining up here, but do you realize that they traded for 3 6'6" players yesterday?
Yeah, they did. And just one statement, and I believe this to my core. Before JB, you read the super chats. If Cade Cunningham were on the Raptors, they would be in play-in position right now. I believe that,
and he would have Brandon Ingram right now.
I believe that to my core. That is why he's better than Scotty Barnes. If you give Cade Cunningham, Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, they're going to be in play-in position. I'm not necessarily saying that they would be one game under 500, but they would at the very least be in the 10 seed right now. And the Raptors are toiling at 16-35. And even if Brandon Ingram were fully healthy, I still don't think that he's going to do much for them this year in terms of even making the play-in. Because Scotty Barnes, as I said before, despite all that he does well, and he is a very good player, is shooting his team out of games night in and night out.
You know what? What friends we got to say what up, though, to JB Smooth, because I want to be able to jump right back into this. Obviously, NBA trade deadline is today at 3 o'clock. I am hitting people up. I'm keeping my ear to the ground. We might go live at 4 o'clock, so that'll be an hour after the trade deadline. You do that because sometimes trades settle. And I need you guys to make sure you're tapped into E&E from 2 to 4 on Woodward Sports Network as well. So let's get those super chats. Let's say what up, to some friends.
Yeah. Let me read off these super chats. Shout out to Burn once again. He was in the house last night. He says, with 10-hour super chat, he said, I was there maybe if half the Pistons fans didn't leave with 10 minutes left. They have influenced some Cavs shots because my ears hurt in those final seconds. The arena was dangerous potential. I have to agree with him at that.
Epic.
It was really epic as well, too. I don't know why the super chats aren't popping up on the screen, but I'll still read them off anyway. $5 again from Burn. After half the fans left the arena was one of the loudest I've been in. Imagine if that was the playoffs as well, too. And Kool-Aid, before I read merch, I think I want to show you this fan reaction that we got from Darius Garland's last shot, and I think you know them.
Don't make that listen.
Hey, Kid Kool-Aid and Junior Kool-Aid. Yeah, they got some content. I told you guys they got some stuff on the way. They're going to get those chairs, those bar chairs, stools out the way next time. But, they set up their own little green screen area. They really care about this stuff. If you saw Kid Kool-Aid, he even has on a custom jersey that, he helped make himself. In Junior Kool-Aid got on the Grant Hill jersey. When I tell you about the Grant Hill jersey and the shoes that my grandma bought me, the shoes are long gone, but the jersey lives on. So all my kids have worn that jersey. So, it's faded, but it will stay in the family as long as possible. Shout out to you, JB Smooth. You cooking, man.
No worries. Let me tell you about some merch that we got going on.
Hey, and we are back. You know what, man? It's Wake Up Woodward, and we need you guys to go ahead and smash that like button. Let's run up these likes. It is NBA trade deadline day. You know what? The Pistons do have to do something because they are 2 players over the roster limit. So whether that's waiving players, because these players are all on one-year deals, or if they get involved in a bigger deal, they can. And we will break these things down. Hey, I'm about to put KG on the spot. Let's get that that satisfy the like button song, man. Y'all got to treat it right.
Oh.
Treat it nice.
Wait a minute.
We need the mojo in the air for the trade deadline,
Wait,
man.
I came too early. Nah. Hey, it's all good, man. Hey, it's getting toward the end of the week, and it's a little icy outside, man. So how about you slip and slide right on that like button, man? We would appreciate it if you just, slide your finger up and down that screen.
Sorry, I had a little message of Trajan Langdon in there as well, man. But you know what? The trade deadline got wacky.
Yeah.
At first, Jimmy Butler did not want to go to the Warriors. Then all of a sudden, he wanted to go to the Warriors. And the Pistons helped to make that happen. And it kicked off kind of not kicked off. It's just kind of more in line with what we've seen at this trade deadline with over 8 All-Stars have been traded at this deadline. But the Miami Heat, they finalized the deal to send Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and a protected first-round pick. And it's the reports are that Dennis Schroeder actually is supposed to be getting waived. I saw a lot of Pistons fans were like, with the eye emojis and all that type of stuff. But as part of the deal as well, the Warriors Lindy Waters, the third, and the Heat's Josh Richardson, I wish this was Josh Richardson 5 years ago, are headed to the Detroit Pistons, sources say. And you guys already heard about the other trade as well as it relates to KJ Martin yesterday. What the Pistons have done so far, they were able to utilize the room exception for KJ Martin and be able to facilitate these other trades using their cap space. I believe they might have about $7 to $9 million left available to facilitate some type of a deal today as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do to relieve themselves of these two extra players that are on the roster. And if they go and they just choose to get more draft capital, because they've effectively gotten several second round picks through this process, and those can become very, very, very valuable around draft time, or if you're trying to make a more attractive package at this trade deadline. But things kind of got turned upside down. I know fans are like, this is not enough. These are not the names that they want to hear. I do like KJ Martin and what he can present. He's still young. He's explosive. He can play defense. He's shooting 38% from behind the arc and 61% from the floor on low volume, but it means that when he's getting out there on the court, he is putting in that work, and I can respect that. I know Kenyon Martin reacted to it yesterday on Gil's podcast, and he said, I just want my boy to have an opportunity to play. And you know what? I know Kenyon Martin was born in Saginaw. His father grew up in Saginaw, and KJ Martin now is a member of the Detroit Pistons. That's the one that intrigues me the most.
I was going to say, I actually like KJ Martin a lot on this team. I was excited about that. And I'm not saying that he's exactly the missing piece to what the Pistons needed, but he's 6'6", he's a wing, he plays defense, he's athletic as hell, he cuts, he slashes. He is going to really love, if they keep him, playing with Cade Cunningham more than he liked playing with Tyrese Maxey. I can guarantee that. And no disrespect to Tyrese Maxey, it's just Cade is a better passer. And if you can move off ball like KJ Martin can, Cade Cunningham will find you. So I like that move, don't get me wrong. The other two, if they serve a purpose down the road, I know they were the third team and a nice third wheel there. If they serve a purpose down the road, I'm fine with it. But KJ Martin's the only one that I really give a damn about in terms of potentially helping this team moving forward. Honestly, with KJ Martin, I'm looking at off the bench, KJ Martin, Ron Holland, wing defense, Asar Thompson as a starter. Very, very interesting. And like you said, he is a strong finisher at the rim. A lifetime 55%, this year 62. I like him on this team. I think he's the type of guy that would fit in really nicely to teams that are ready to win. And I think the Pistons might have gotten a steal with him, but we don't even know if they're going to
kind of fall right in line with some of these other players that they've had here. I believe that there's still some potential to be able to tap on. When you talk about who his father was, it's just aggressive. He was one of those guys that you knew. He got that dog. People didn't mess with him. It was similar to like Stu. If you guys didn't see Kenyon Martin play, you just didn't mess with him. That's just what it is. And his son has that in him too. They must have that great state of Michigan blood running through their veins. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I want to see that dog. I want to see what he gets when he gets an opportunity to really, really just play. And I do believe that there are opportunities here. I don't want to see this take away, though, from opportunities that, Ron Holland has in minutes that Asar Thompson can play. But that's where I want to see exactly what he can do. And can he be a small ball four in certain lineups because of how aggressive he plays, because of how powerful he attacks the rim? So, yeah, like you said, it's not something where we're like, yo, this is the help that Cade needs in the starting lineup. But as it relates to what moves they have made, the KJ Martin one is very intriguing to me. What about you, KJ?
Yeah, and the bench needs some work. So if they were to keep a KJ Martin, I think that only benefits them. Like you said, he's a young player. He's athletic, can get to the basket. He does have a three-point shot. We need to see how consistent it is with more minutes. But I really like what KJ Martin can bring to this team just coming off the bench. A lot of people think he can replace Fontecchio's minutes. Don't know if that's the case. But there's an argument there.
38% from behind the arc.
With the way Fontecchio has played this year, it is an argument. So I will give you that. But the Pistons aren't done here. I mean, clearly, when this move came through, I instantly knew, okay, there's got to be something bigger at stake, because no offense to Josh Richardson, but he is not a fit for this team. He is not the player that he once was. You know, at one point he was a 16-point-a-game guy, but not really that anymore. And Lindy Waters, he's a young guy, hasn't really got a lot of burn over there with Golden State. A lot of people think he's okay, but I just don't see him as a fit for this team. So you gotta Trajan has to have something else up his sleeve. I think they're acquiring contracts right now, just trying to, you know, either make a bigger move here at the deadline for picks, or maybe they will get some form of a player. Now, the big names are gone, but there is still the C.J. McCollums out there. There's still the Lonzo Balls of the world out there. So we don't know. But so far, I think that Trajan is plotting something. We just don't know what it is yet.
What he has done is he's given himself every single opportunity to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one thing he is. He's like the architect, man, from the Matrix. You know, and so he gets the opportunity to say, you know what, we can pursue a star-type deal, or a guy like C.J. McCollum if we want to take on that type of a contract and financial burden. Or they can say, you know what, we can facilitate and just take on draft picks right now.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I notice is this. You're able to not just help teams right now, but what about teams that are looking to get busy towards the draft season? These deals that they just picked up are all one-year deals, meaning they're still really attractive to teams who, even teams who aren't in the race for the playoffs or for a championship hunt. Having these one-year deals that are going to expire after this season means that players can flip their cap space either right now at the deadline, or you can flip that cap space in the off-season by dealing with the Pistons. So they present multiple kind of beneficial opportunities for teams looking to get busy either now or at the deadline, and that gives the Pistons really a lot of, as much flexibility as they can. Not having the control of over their first-round draft pick, that really hampers them.
Yeah.
That cannot be understated. But I understand why Troy Weaver put the types of protections on it that he did, because if they were bad again this year, they get another shot in a loaded draft. But if you're good and exceed expectations, you're like, all right, let's just get going. And that's where I am intrigued to see what Trajan Langdon is going to do. And that's why I'm not judging Langdon purely off this deadline. They're in this position right now, one game under 500 now, with a chance to have 4 winnable games just before this deadline. I want to see them above 500, at least by a couple games going into the All-Star break. But Trajan Langdon, he has an opportunity to really punctuate the work that he's already done here.
I was going to say, as much as we're on pins and needles hoping that the Pistons make another move, as much as we're all very disappointed by what has occurred in the last couple of games with Cade tying both of them, and then Trae Young and Darius Garland hitting game winners, tough game winners, by the way, respectively. We also have to look at, kind of like how I did with Michigan basketball at the beginning of this show, just how far this team has come. We didn't have a basketball team to root for last year. As a Michigan basketball fan and as a Pistons fan, last year was, I can't even, it was so bad. I'm not even going to say the words that I want to say because they'd probably get me canceled. It was just as awful as it can possibly be. And then this year, I'm going to focus on the Pistons because I already did the Michigan talk. This year, they're one game under 500. They're in play-in positioning. Cade Cunningham's an all-star. And we had a discussion yesterday talking about, can they win 20 games to end the year? It's insane. Do I think they're going to do it without another move? Probably not, but I still think something is afoot. And oh, by the way, just another quick thing on KJ Martin. This whole KJ Martin taking minutes from Simone Fontecchio is more and more intriguing the more I look into it. Because in theory, Simone Fontecchio shoots better than KJ Martin, right? Throughout their entire careers, that's basically been the case. This year, though, one of the things that has been so maddening about Simone Fontecchio is he can't shoot worth a lick. He's lost that too.
Yes, no consistency.
No consistency. And KJ Martin, even though he's doing it on an extremely low volume, is shooting the three at a more efficient rate, and I think does everything else better on the court than Simone Fontecchio. You might have to call Simone Fontecchio, if you don't cut him, maybe give him a Simone Moore Jr. or Wendell Fontecchio Jr. kind of role, if you catch my drift.
Because what I don't think people understand with the KJ Martin type of a player, it's all about situation. He's playing with a team that has, in recent weeks, and I got to ask the question to JB Bickerstaff. I should have cut that audio up, and maybe I'll do that for Woodward Pistons podcast. But
they turn defense to offense really quickly. If you look over the last 2 to 4 weeks, especially the month of January, where they were one of the best defensive teams in the month of January, Asar Thompson was top 5 in steals, and then when you expand that to like the top 20 and 30, you see a couple other Pistons in that list as well. That's where a KJ Martin becomes a very, very intriguing player with the way that he can run the floor, with the way that you can count on him in transition, with the way that he finishes at the rim, with the way that he plays defense. So when you see like Ron Holland and Asar Thompson, these guys are getting their hands out into the passing lanes. Yeah. But when you bring in the next set of wings behind them or any type of replacement, especially now that Ivy's out, are you getting that same type of play out of a Simone Fontecchio? Because if you're not hitting your threes at like a 39, 40, 41% clip, if you're Fontecchio, you can't also be the reason why they know we can attack you on defense. I'm not saying he's been a pylon. I think he's been decent, but he doesn't bring the same level of athleticism, the same level of in the passing lanes, the same level of being able to close out when the guards try to dive, as I believe a KJ Martin might be able to.
Yep, KJ Martin is great at all of that stuff, and he's even a better shooter this year, as I said. Go ahead.
No. If you got something else on that, say that, because I have something else that we have to it's pain, bro. Double pain yesterday.
Right, give me some pain.
Jay Hart, thank you first and foremost, Jay Hart, for the support. This guy supports us in the chat, on socials. He's even emailed me like, hey, shout out to you, man. Shout out to the chat family. Go ahead and hit that like button. I see you guys in the chat. He says Lonzo is gone, brother.
Oh, yeah. They locked up Lonzo. My apologies. Thought he was still available.
That's all right. That's certainly a sad one.
I think it's on a good deal, too. But obviously the injury is considered a 2-year, $20 million extension for Lonzo Ball.
Well,
what could have been?
Anywho, what could have been? Hopefully, Trajan gets somebody else.
I mean,
I see people saying Zion.
Yeah, it's not realistic, man. They not getting Zion, especially at the deadline or not. But that's why I kind of wanted to ask y'all, because most of the big names are gone. There are still some players out there, but at this point, if they were to just get draft picks, or if this is it, how do you feel if they don't bring in another player? As a fan, how do you feel?
As a fan, I wanted them to go out there and be involved in an Ingram or Levine or even a DeRozan, because those guys can handle the usage. It's not about their efficiency overall. It's about what they're doing to impact during their time. And when you can be one of those volume shooters that's going out there and getting your team into the bonus early in those quarters, that makes a huge difference for players like a Marcus Sasser. You know what I mean? I would rather Marcus Sasser, when he gets those kind of fouls where they kind of bump him, I'd rather him be shooting free throws. And players like that help to that cause. Rod and I, we've broken that type of stuff down the last couple seasons when we talked about Zach LaVine. People's like, what? Then this year people were more on board with it because they understand the effect that those types of players have. And so, Zion is somebody that's very intriguing.
Of course.
Obviously, I think C.J. McCollum would make a little bit more sense for the Detroit Pistons at this point. I mean, I don't know if you can get your hands up. If you can get Zion, you go and you get Zion. But I just don't know how to make that work.
How do you get that, though? Because I assume Zion is going to require a lot of capital. So,
so at this
point,
how do you do that?
That's not really. I'm over here looking at Spotrac, their trade machine right now that they got going on. I mean, you could easily, from what I'm seeing, the trade would pass if you do like a Tobias Harris and Simone Fontecchio.
Yeah, but in a real life situation,
hell the fuck no. Are your GMs going to actually go for this? Probably not. You're probably going to have to add in a little bit more draft capital. But
you're not trading Zion for 2-year contracts and players like that. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But if they come away with just some draft capital and they still have their flexibility going into this offseason, and they still have an all-star in Cade, they still signed Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias, they're still exceeding expectation. That's the vacuum that I completely graded in. Mm-hmm. I can give the trade deadline its own grade. If they don't go and get some type of impactful rotation level player, I'm going to have to say C- or below.
Yeah.
If they go out there and get an impactful player, even if it's just rotation, not even saying star, then that's where we start saying C+ and above for me.
Got it.
And so I'm okay, though. Like, overall, I would still say he's passing the test. And I believe that if he doesn't do anything, it will be because they're trying to keep their flexibility for something they see down the road. Like, the deals we see right now, these are always going to favor the other teams, the contenders and such. We're not going to get a favorable deal right now unless we go and pursue as buyers. And to be buyers, we got to give up a little bit more than we actually want to, and a little bit more than we actually have, because we have no first-round draft capital. With the protections going up the next 2 years, you can't trade back-to-back first-round picks. So they're tied up in that department. And that's where it's just like, you know what? I believe that they might be just trying to get themselves closer to the offseason, because even if they wanted to trade it to Tobias, right? How much more attractive does it get at the end of the season? I'm not saying do it, but how much more attractive for someone if Kentucky signed a 2-year deal? How much more attractive to other teams is it if you know you're trading for a guy on a 1-year deal now?
Right.
Yeah, and that's why I think this whole trade deadline, how we are in a lot of ways demanding things out of Trajan Langdon, looking at what Toronto did, giving Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, and just thinking what could have been. Like I said, almost demanding if the Pistons don't do anything else, it's a failure. I think it's a testament to how the Pistons have performed so far this year, how they've exceeded expectations, how Cade Cunningham is a no-doubt top 20 player, that we're even having these discussions. Because I personally think that if they do nothing, if they get draft capital, if they keep KJ Martin, I think this is still a 500 basketball team. And think about what we would have done at the beginning of the year. I'm talking about cutoff pinkies for the Pistons to even be a 500 basketball team.
I swear.
Bro, I was like, just give me like 30 wins.
Yeah.
I would be happy, man. Like,
You know what?
I'm ecstatic right now.
I'll go on a feet-kissing tour. I'll kiss Jamie Bickerstaff and Dusty Mays.
Whoa.
No.
Oh, we kissing.
No,
We will dance to the
no.
sun together.
We kissing
Goodness
feet?
gracious,
No.
bro.
Just giving a little perspective. I'm not saying that it wouldn't behoove the Pistons to make another move. I'm just giving a little bit of perspective. And hey, maybe by the trade deadline, we'll be a lot happier than we even are now.
I don't think Willie B. Shout out Willie Baker.
yeah,
Baker.
right.
I don't know
Willie B's for that,
if he's
man.
down with the feet kissing.
Basketball was so bad last year. It was so bad. I'm a Michigan Pistons
different
fan.
strokes for
It
different
was
folks.
so bad watching it. I was
Yeah.
like sad, man. Like my kids were sad. I get it. We get sad over the losses, but it was tough, bro. When you're sitting in the press conference and Cade walks in, because you know he's gonna be the leader that he is, and he sits down. He just looks at the stats, and he's like, "We're not good. We're bad," and it just got silent in there. And you feel that type of stuff, man. So it's like to see these guys having this type of success right now. I understand where the exuberance comes from. Cavassier Chase, what up, though, brother?
Hey, what up, Joe? Good morning, everybody. I don't know. I'm trying not to think about the trade deadline because I just fantasize about Tobias Harris not being on this team.
It was
I'm
never
telling you,
going to
got
happen.
trade machine windows up
Like,
right now with Tobias in each one.
It was never
I
going
mean,
to
I'm
happen.
sure there's a ton of other dudes who can put up 8 points and 2
yeah.
rebounds in fucking 25 minutes for less than $26 million. It's like, he's just a bad player.
Get this man off this team. I'm
Chuck
telling you.
Brewer said Kool-Aid. Didn't he mention why Stu barely touched the floor in the second, in the second half? I didn't even know. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
I didn't notice
either.
that either.
That's interesting.
That,
Especially with Duren being in foul trouble. Like, I don't know.
Before, you know,
that's kind of interesting.
that's a very good question,
gotta
Chuck.
check
Where
those minutes now.
you've kind of stumped us all. But one quick thing about the trade deadline before we move on to TLB. Obviously we know that the Warriors, they wanted Jimmy Butler, and I think he's going to make the Warriors a better team. However, the Heat getting Andrew Wiggins, I like that a lot for them. You got Tyler Hero, you got Andrew Wiggins, you got Bam Adebayo. I don't think they're
Pat Riley's he's good.
absolutely. Remember just a couple of days ago, I was as positive can be that the Pistons were going to end up passing the Heat when it's all said and done. I'm not so sure anymore. I think they're going to be battling with each other to a close the year, but I really like what Andrew Wiggins brings to a team that has other good players around him. How he's developed from being a disappointment in Minnesota, putting up a lot of empty stats, to eventually becoming someone who was a heavy contributor on a championship team and that type of guy that all winning teams want. Shout out to Andrew Wiggins, and I think he is going to do very, very well on the Miami Heat. I think the Heat made out very well in that trade.
I think he will be the one that's defending Cade in those games. When you talk about the type of impact two-way, and how all the Warriors fans and the Warriors brass and the Warriors players have talked about him just being one of the most important players to their championship run. That's where it's like, because before we were talking about all dysfunction teams. Andrew Wiggins is one of those guys in your locker room who's so far anti-dysfunction you're flipping the switch. Yes, Jimmy Butler's a heck of a player. And I know there's the stats out there about who he is per 100 possessions. He's like one of your top players at putting the ball into the in the rim from an ISO standpoint. Yeah. But what you get with Andrew Wiggins, and you got an all-star over there already in Tyler Herro, you get an opportunity to kind of play a little less centered ball around Jimmy Butler and a lot more around kind of the vibes that Andrew Wiggins brings. Kind of the vibes that I know Tyler Herro has as well and some of those other players. Like, now is where I'm looking at some of their three-point shooters, and I'm like, sheesh, they're going to get a whole lot more work than they probably were with Jimmy Butler.
Shout out Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
Go blue, go blue. But anywho.
Trade deadline at 3.
It's time to TLB now, because KG has a question that he wants to pose to all of us, and I think that it is a very interesting one. We're looking a little bit into the future, but Lions are in certain waters now that they haven't been in their entire franchise history, and I think it's a good idea to talk about it. But first, Lady Jane's.
Hey, at Lady Jane's, we take the trot of getting a haircut. Our talented stylist will deliver an industry-leading haircut, relaxing scalp massage, my favorite, that hot towel. That hot lather.
Wait, what?
Hold on. That hot lather.